It happened on Route 79, somewhere between nowhere and less than that. I was 28 and returning from a funeral. My cousin Michael dead at 32 from what they called a freak aneurysm. He was my best friend growing up, practically. A brother. After the service, I didn't feel like staying at the family home. Too many people, too many casseroles, and forced hugs. So I got in my car and drove. I didn't even know where I was going, but I ended up on Route 79 now. I'd never driven that road before. I was sure of that. The GPS had suggested it as a detour after traffic on the interstate. I didn't recognize the name of the towns it passed through. I didn't know the road. And yet, the moment my tires touched the cracked asphalt, something pulled at me. A deep, knowing feeling in the gut. Not fear exactly. Not yet, that was déjà vu. But not the flash of familiarity we all know. This wasn't, oh, I've had this conversation before. This was immersive, paralyzing, like my body knew the road more intimately than my mind ever. Kadat, I slowed down. The trees were oddly symmetrical, almost mirrored on both sides of the road. There was a curve ahead, a very specific curve I knew would be followed by a bridge. And after that, an old, run-down diner with a red neon sign. And that's exactly what happened. Only the diner looked abandoned. Half the neon was out. The letters buzzed, ON24RS. When I parked to catch my breath, my hands were trembling. That's when the real strangeness began. I went inside. I don't know why. The bell above the door jingled, even though the glass was cracked and the rusted frame shouldn't have allowed it to move. Inside was empty tables overturned, ketchup, bottles dusty, a jukebox that looked fused with mold dot, and yet I walked to a booth near the back, sat down, picked up a faded menu. I knew it would list the cherry pie special for $2.99, and it did. I remembered sitting there before, watching. The rain through the window. But it wasn't raining, then came the woman. She stepped out from the back, wearing a blue waitress uniform, 1950s style. Her name tag said, Lisa. She looked at me like I was a ghost. You're back, she said. I froze. What? I told you never to come here again. I stammered something. I couldn't think. My heart thundered in my ears. You promised. She turned and walked through the kitchen doors. I followed, but she was gone. The kitchen was rotting, full of dead flies and broken equipment. No exits. I ran out to my car. I drove. I don't even remember turning the key. The road bent and turned exactly how I knew it would. I'd passed a rusty truck, flipped on its side. Just like before. A fox darted across the lane. Just like before. I realized then I wasn't remembering a past life or hallucinating. I was repeating. Maybe I died before. Maybe many times. Maybe this road was a loop. A trap. Some personal purgatory. I checked my GPS. No signal. I drove faster. Turned the radio on. Static. Then, faintly, music. A doo-wop song from the 50s. Earth Angel. I changed the station. It stayed. Same song. Louder now. I screamed. Then a flash of light and I was outside the diner again. Parked, hands trembling. I ran inside. Same bell, same dust, same menu. She stepped out again. You promised? I don't know how many times it happened. 10, 100. One time I didn't go in. I kept driving. I blacked out. Woke up parked in front of the diner. Eventually I stopped. Fighting it, I sat down. Waited for her. And this time she sat with me. You can leave, she said. But only if you remember. Remember what? She reached across the table and touched my forehead. And it hit me. I remember driving this road with Michael when we were 17. We had skipped school. Took Route 79 because it sounded cool. There was a diner, this diner. We stopped for pie. That night, we crashed. Michael died. I survived. But I forgot it all. The trauma wiped it from me. My brain buried it. You never forgave yourself, she said. So you returned, again and again. She smiled. I woke up in my car. This time, the sun was rising. The road was just a road. The diner was gone. GPS worked. I was 20 minutes from home. I drove, and I haven't had that dream again. But sometimes, when I hear Earth Angel, I taste cherry pie, and I feel her hand on my forehead, and I wonder if I ever really left. It started with an email I shouldn't have received. Subject, rental confirmation. Apt 3B, welcome home. I almost deleted it, thinking it was spam, until I saw the address. 1416 Renwood Avenue. Apt 3B, I froze. That was the apartment I had. Tried to rent 6 years ago. I was fresh out of college, desperate for a place in the city. And that little third floor walk up was cheap, quiet, and drenched in late afternoon light. But someone else got it before me. A man, I think. The landlord had called 2 days after my viewing to apologize. Too late, he said. Already signed the lease. But now, years later, the email welcomed me as if I were the tenant. The details were oddly specific. My full name, the old email I used at the time, even a move-in date from 6 years ago. June 1st. Today was May 31st. I stared at it for almost an hour before clicking on the attachment. A PDF lease agreement with my forged signature at the bottom, or ... maybe it was mine. It looked real, too real. I closed my laptop. I should have moved on. Chalked it up to a bizarre glitch. But something felt wrong in my chest, like a taut string that had been plucked. That night I dreamed of the apartment. I remembered the wallpaper in the hallway, pale green with floral swirls. The creaking of the wooden stairs. The smell of citrus. Floor cleaner. And a black rotary phone on the hallway wall that hadn't been there when I viewed it. I woke up at 3:11 a.m. Heart pounding. Sleep wouldn't come. So I looked up the building. To my surprise, it was still listed. The same unit 3B was available. Open house today. God, it wasn't even up for rent a day ago. I checked. I called the number. A woman answered. Renwood Properties? I told her I was interested in Apt 3B. She laughed lightly. You again? You're welcome to come back. Noon sharp. Sorry? I've never... Click. I don't know why. Maybe I need to see it again. Prove to myself it wasn't real. The street looked smaller than I remembered. Older. The building leaned slightly. Or maybe my perception was tilted by nerves. The buzzer didn't work, so I pushed the door, and it opened. The same hallway, the same wallpaper, the same lemony clean smell, but it felt preserved like a film set. The staircase groaned under my feet. The third floor was silent. I knocked on 3B. No one answered. Then the door creaked open. Inside was empty, unfurnished, but everything was familiar. The warped floorboards, the narrow kitchen, the radiator under the living room window, even the little chip in the bathroom. Mirror. It was exactly as it been 6 years ago, except for one thing. A cardboard box in the middle of the living room. It had my name on it. My full name. I knelt, trembling, and opened it. Inside were items I hadn't seen in years. An old hoodie I'd lost in college. A Polaroid camera I never owned, but remember using. A journal with my handwriting entries I never wrote, describing days that never happened. June 3rd. He was at the door again, asking about the girl. I told him I was alone. I always am. June 7th. The phone rang at 3:11 a.m. again. No one spoke, just breathing. June 12th. It's getting harder to remember which version I am. I think I'm the original, but the mirror thinks otherwise. Eyes shut. The book? Then the phone rang. I hadn't noticed it before. A black rotary phone mounted on the wall. I picked it up. Static. Then a voice, whispering. You're out of sync. My legs gave out. I sat on the floor, hyperventilating. Then a knock at the door. Sharp. Rhythmic. I crawled to the peephole. A man stood there. In a dark coat. Thin. Pale. Familiar. I had seen him before. In a dream? A memory? He knocked again. Don't let him in. The voice came from behind me. I turned my reflection in the window, but it wasn't copying me. It was watching me. I ran. Down the stairs. Out the building. As I reached the street, I saw a for rent sign being taken down. A man nodded at me, as if recognizing an old friend. I didn't stop. That night, I stayed in a hotel, but I couldn't sleep. I kept checking the door, listening for breathing, watching my reflection in the bathroom mirror. At 3:11 a.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered, breathing. Then you moved out again. I hung up. I never went back to Renwood Avenue. But 2 weeks later, I received mail forwarded from that address. A utility bill in my name. A handwritten letter addressed to the me that escaped. Inside it read, "This time, don't come back. Next time, he won't knock." I threw it away, but every night I check the time, and at 3:11 a.m., I'm never asleep. The first time I saw her, she called me by my middle name, not my first name. Not the name on my badge at work or on my lease or on my driver's license. She said Isaiah, soft like an apology, as I passed her on the steps of the West Bridge. Library. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. I stopped. "Do I know you?" She backed away. "I'm sorry. I thought you were someone else," but she didn't look confused. She looked terrified. I shrugged it off. It was a weird moment, nothing more. People misidentify each other. The time, except it kept happening. I started seeing her. In the park, in the corner grocery store, standing at the other end of the subway platform, staring at me like I was a ghost. And one night I caught her outside my apartment building. She wasn't hiding, just watching, holding something in her hands. When I walked toward her, she ran. I should have called the police, but she didn't seem dangerous. Just sad. Fractured. Then came the dream. It was vivid. I was walking through the city, but it was empty. Frozen in time. No sound. I came to the library steps. She was there. Trying. She said, "Don't you remember any of it?" When I woke up, I felt like I had lost something. The next day, she approached me outside a cafe. "Please," she said. "Let me explain." We sat on a bench at Glenmore Park. She didn't look at me as she talked. "I've been dreaming of you for years," she said. "Since I was 17. I started to speak." She shook her head. "In my dreams, your name is Isaiah. You live in a small apartment above a bookstore. You make tea at night. You hum when you're anxious. And every dream ends the same way, with you vanishing like smoke, and I wake up crying." I stared at her. "Okay, but that doesn't make sense. We've never met." She opened her bag, pulled out a sketchbook. Inside were pages and pages of my life, my apartment, my cat, the chipped mug I used every morning, the exact sweater I was wearing right then. "You should know this," I whispered. "I know," she said. "That's why I'm terrified." She said her name was Claire, and that the dream started on her 17th birthday. At first, she thought I was a figment, an imaginary friend, then a symbol, but the details kept piling up. Too consistent, too specific. She said that 2 weeks ago. The dream stopped, and then she saw me on the street. "I didn't think you were real," she said. I walked away. I didn't know what else to do. My mind was a whirlpool of impossible logic. Coincidence? Stalking? A prank? But that night, I dreamed of her. Not the way I remembered her. In the dream, I was her. I was Claire, 17, writing in a journal about Isaiah, drawing his window, longing for him. I woke up shaking. I didn't see her for a week. Then, in the frozen food aisle of a pharmacy, she appeared. "Did you dream?" she asked. I nodded. She started crying. Over coffee, she told me more about the years of journals, about the moments that bled into her waking life, songs I liked that she started to hum, recipes I cooked that she craved. Her therapist said it was projection. Her mother said it was mental illness. But she always knew. "You were always real," she said. "Just somewhere else." We started to meet more often, talking, comparing memories, and something terrifying emerged. The more time we spent together, the more I remembered her. Not from dreams. From life. Claire and I had a picnic in a field outside Boston. Claire and I had our first kiss under a collapsing bridge. Claire taught me how to fold cranes from napkins. But those things never happened. Not in this life. Not in this world, that one day. I asked her a question I shouldn't have. What if you're the real one? And I'm the dream. She went pale. That night, she didn't answer my text dot by morning. I felt hollow. Like something had been cut out of me. I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize my eyes. Then the apartment began to change. Dot my chipped mug was gone. Dot my cat wouldn't come when I called. His name? What was his name? My mail came addressed to someone else. I ran to Glenmore Park. She was there. It's slipping, she said. I can feel it. You're not supposed to exist here. Then where do I belong? She shook her head, crying. I don't know. But when I stop dreaming, you fade. So I asked her to never stop. She tried. She read the journals, listened to the music, laid in bed for hours trying to conjure me. But one day, she sent a voice memo. I'm sorry. I think I forgot your face. I listened to it as my hands became transparent, dot, as the light from the window passed through my chest, dot, as the city outside faded to gray. And I thought, if I was her dream, why did I feel so much love? That was 3 days ago. Now I sit in the park, writing this with fingers that flicker. If anyone finds this note, tell Claire that Isaiah remembers, that I was real, that the love was real, dot, and that I hope one day she dreams again. Because maybe, just maybe, I'll return